Welcome to year 2 of A Mick, a Mook, and a Mike. Hosted by 4-time Emmy-nominated producer Frank Bates and retired New York City firefighter, 9/11 first responder, and Vietnam vet, Billy O'Connor.
Today's guest, co-star of the NBC series New Amsterdam, Connor Marx.
Wow, brother. We gotta stop talking off camera before we go on. We're still laughing. Hi, my brother Frankie. How are you, pal?
Good. So how has your 40 plus 40 over 40 podcast have been a couple weeks into it? You get any checks at all?
They're coming in, Frank. They're flying in. I'm telling you the truth. I'm going to get that operation I had my eye on now. This is it. I'm going to finally get in touch with my inner woman.
It's a prestigious award for you to be picked amongst the 40 podcasters in America. So even if you're not proud of you, I'm proud of you for you.
I can't believe that your name is not there. I mean, what's the deal?
Well,
you don't do this alone. I can't do it without Derek. We can't do it without you.
We can't do it without anybody, but there's got to be a team leader behind the scenes and in front of the scenes. And
you don't find that frightening?
You're the front man.
You don't find that frightening?
You're the front man.
I often wondered how guys could follow me into a fire when I was a lieutenant, and I'd have 4 guys I was responsible for, and they follow me into a smoky apartment, and I can't find my way around a fucking apartment with the lights on. You know what I mean? I'm like the last guy. I have a terrible sense of direction. But so I'm the team leader, huh?
You're the team leader.
God help you, it's both of you.
You're the talent in front of the camera.
All right, so now
I'm just a traffic cop.
I just want pink jelly beans next week, Frank. Get all the other jelly beans out. I want the pink stuff.
Okay, next week for sure.
Since my baby left me. Oh, he's singing some Elvis. I didn't know he went back that far.
Have you seen a movie?
No, but I heard the guy who plays Elvis is terrific, and I heard Tom Hanks sucks. That's what I got.
That's it.
That's what I heard. That's my summation.
Derek has seen a movie. Does Tom Hanks suck? Is Elvis, Austin, whatever his name is, terrific?
The guy who plays Elvis is fantastic. The movie actually is really good. I give it a 85%. I don't know. Tom Hanks, people don't like his makeup. I just think it's a very difficult character to play. You know, it's like he's unlikable, and I think some people mix that up when they don't like somebody's performance. It's because they don't like the character. You know, I don't think his performance is spectacular, but it's a very obscure and strange accent, and then the character itself is just kind of like a prickly guy.
Okay. But when Tom Hanks comes on, what's the first thing you think? Is that Tom Hanks? He looks.
Oh, is that right? He doesn't look like Tom Hanks.
No, he looks
like Colonel Parker.
He looks like Colonel Parker, and Colonel Parker was 50 pounds heavier. So he's wearing a fat suit and he's wearing fat makeup.
And also, Tom Hanks has that connotation for us that he's a nice guy. Like we all see him as a nice guy. So playing a prick is not like.
That doesn't actually. He doesn't. He's not likable at all.
No, that's what I'm saying. But you know, with Tom Hanks, you see Tom Hanks' movie now. You have certain expectations for the character that he's developed over 30 years. You can't break away from that character in a movie like Elvis. Like, for example, when a guy comes on who plays Elvis, I've seen the trailers. You don't say, "Oh, wow, that's so and so from such and such." Right. You know, you just say, "Wow, he's a pretty good actor." I would have rather had, and I'm sure Tom Hanks gives it a great performance, but I can't get over it's not Tom Hanks. Because I've seen him so many times as an actor. I mean, I would rather have an unknown, heavy-set actor play Colonel Tom Parker.
Oh, let's give some examples.
Well, I can't think of any offhand, or I would have given some.
Let me ask you, as a producer, is Hanks in the movie just because he's a draw? I mean, that's the name of the game?
For sure.
So
I'm sure they said, "You get Tom Hanks. We'll give you a list of guys to put in this movie, and if you get one of them, I'll give you a list of Tom Hanks, Brad Pitt, George Clooney, and if they come in the movie, I'll do it."
Have you guys seen the series? Oh crap! It just left my head. With Steve Carell, The Office.
No, my friend Hans turned me on to
the British one.
The British one. Hans Sheen, who was
Yeah,
Natural Mr. America. I'm not explaining it to you, Derek. I'm explaining it to the thousands and thousands and thousands.
Millions now after I made that cover.
Who watched the show, who explained who Hans Sheen is, Natural Mr. America. But he turned me on to that 15 years ago. And I said, who's going to watch Hulu? Who's going to watch The Office? I knew a lot.
Yeah.
But what were you saying?
There's an actor on The Office, one of the
heavyset guy?
Yeah. He's like perfect size and look.
You know who would be a good Colonel Tom Parker? Jim O'Hare, who appeared on
That's funny. I thought
Parks and Rec. Jim O'Hare.
That's funny. Yeah, he would be. Yeah, we had him on. Yeah, Jim O'Hare. Yeah, would be a good one.
A great Tom Parker.
Were you a fan of Elvis before you saw the movie? I mean, did you ever? I mean, that's first of all, it's out of your era.
That's like that's a loaded question because from where I'm from, we have kind of it's a weird relationship with Elvis because of the origin of his music.
Yeah. I've heard black singers say that a lot of them were moving their legs and shit, but they couldn't show it on television. If a black guy did that on television, well, they didn't even do Elvis.
Well, I was going to say,
and Sullivan, they shot him from the waist up, right? They wouldn't even let him do his legs.
You know, I almost met Elvis twice.
Really?
Really?
Yeah. First time was in the World Football League. There was a game against the Memphis Southmen, who are no longer around, against the Houston Gamblers, who are no longer around because the World Football League is no longer around. But Elvis lived in Memphis, and he would go to all of those games whenever he was not gigging out of town. So he would come up in the press box where I was working, in a private suite in the restaurant, in the press box. And I just sort of saw a glimpse of this pompadour walking into the press room, into the private suite. And I tried to go in. So I said, showed my credentials. I said, Frank Pace Media. And they said, that'll get you fucking nowhere, pal.
Frank Pace Media is leaving now.
So that's what they said. So I almost met Elvis that time. And the second time I almost met dead Elvis was in 2003 or 2004 when I was driving my daughter Erin to the University of Kentucky from LA. And we stopped at Graceland because it was sort of on the way. It was a little bit out of the way. But she let me stop there. And then when we got there was like a 2-hour line, 3-hour line to get into Graceland. So just as we were leaving, I spotted two guys I had worked with, Stan Zimmerman and Jim Berg, who had written on Something Wilder, the TV show, who had been just commissioned by Priscilla to write a Broadway play based on Elvis's lives. And they were there to tour Graceland. So I figured, great. We'll go up with them. So they said, yeah, come on, no problem with us. We're happy to get you in. So we went to the golf cart, and we got on the golf cart with the two guys that came down to pick up them. And they said, no way, Mr. Way, no way, Jose.
You should have stuck with Lennon's Tomb.
Yeah, you should have stuck with Lennon's Tomb, so I didn't get a chance to see him either.
Tell me something, and this amazes me. I mean, they were commissioned to write a play about Elvis's life. I would think a play like that would be a home run. I mean, with his music, how come it never came to pass?
Well, who read the book? Maybe their play was not good enough, or maybe they couldn't find the financing.
I mean, the music alone, you would think that
You would think.
And also, I read where
maybe Priscilla, maybe they didn't write it. It was probably a well-written play because I know Jim and Stan, but maybe Priscilla didn't write the play. Play didn't present Elvis in a way that Priscilla would have. Yeah.
I got another question for you guys regarding the fat actor who would play the fat actor. Mm-hmm. What if, hypothetical, what if you
By
guys...
the way, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
God damn it.
But we have a great actor coming on by the name of Connor Marx.
He's not fat, though.
Never mind.
No, he's a good actor, but continue.
You're in the middle of that question.
Yes. What if... what if we got Al Roker? Al Roker got fat again, and we painted him white Would you guys be okay with if he played that character?
Look at Frank's face.
Would you be okay with that?
Frank's Frank's face looks like the audience when I was doing Mormon jokes in a Mormon hospital. Look at the audience. Look at that.
Would you guys have an issue with that?
Al Roker if he was fat, and then we painted
I would
him
have
white.
an issue with any actor playing a role that he wasn't born to play. So
Speaking of born to play, and I'm going to segue here. We lost James Caan last month, right? And we always talk about how much Godfather. Godfather is our favorite movie. I think James Caan was born to play that part of Sonny. I mean, I thought he was just. I mean, they were all great, but Caan really blew me away as Sonny because I knew so many hot-headed kiddies growing up that reminded me of Caan.
well, you know that he was only in this movie as a prerequisite for casting Al Pacino in the movie,
Oh, I didn't know that.
because the studio wanted James Caan to play Michael,
Really?
and Al Ruddy, the producer, and the writer, who directed Coppola, they both had their heart set on Pacino. So, and they insisted that it be Pacino, and the studio finally relented. But they said, okay, you have to take James Caan then to be Sonny. And Al Ruddy and Coppola didn't want Caan because Caan wasn't Italian.
Oh, he wasn't Italian?
No.
Oh.
But he played an Italian.
Well, he
movie.
played him great, man, to a T.
Yep.
And can you picture that in opposite roles? Can you picture that movie
I can't.
with
No.
Pacino as Sonny? And
No,
I can't.
but
see
you know they wanted like Ryan O'Neal to
Right.
play to play Sonny. You know, they were just thinking of movies.
Yeah, I guess money again, right?
Yeah.
Ryan O'Neal, they want him to play Rocky, right? They weren't they looking at when the
They wanted Ryan
when
O'Neal,
Stallone,
yeah,
Stallone
to
they
play
wanted-
everything because he
was hot.
was hot.
Yeah, I of the original cast of The Godfather and the family. Now the only one left, I guess, would be Talia Shire, right? Oh, and DeVal. DeVal's still around, right?
Sort of.
He wasn't the family, but
Yeah.
he was one of the main characters.
Yeah.
But
I got another question.
and Al, Al Pacino.
So you got producers or people who put movies together like Weintraub and Weinstein, unfortunately. Who do you think is the best ever at putting together, like they put together so many great films? Because this is a controversial statement, but Harvey Weinstein has put together a lot of great films over the years. So you think anybody's comparable to that or better?
Oh, I think a lot of people in the old days were.
David Lean comes to mind, I think.
I don't have any opinion on it.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Well,
just,
we can
a lot of people are really good, but there's so much luck involved.
Yeah.
There's so much luck involved to putting together a movie, to putting together a TV show. You know, if you watch The Offer on Paramount Plus, you would think it's Al Ruddy, but you know, Al Ruddy presents a version of himself that's maybe a little bit different than the way Al Ruddy was in real life.
Perspective.
So yeah,
A lot of people say Robert Evans was responsible for really
Yeah,
making the finished product.
yeah, there were so many people are responsible, and it can go wrong at any different
Yeah.
way.
I would challenge that though. If somebody has my challenge to that is somebody has a list of great movies. If they've been able to string along 10, 12, 20, even 5 great movies, then there must be some sort of assembly of talent that they have put together in order to make a great film.
Well, you know, is Orson Welles on that list? I don't know. People
Yeah.
think he made the greatest movie of all time. You know, it doesn't take great talent to cast, Marlon Brando in a movie. All it takes is money. So, it takes a lot of things to to put Paul Newman and Robert Redford together in a Western. I mean, it takes a lot of luck, and anything could go wrong. Also, a poor marketing program can kill a great movie. So I don't think there's an answer to that I could give.
Well, the reason I thought of David Lean is just because Dr. Zhivago and Lawrence of Arabia, those big scope, huge scope, and Lean came to mind because of that. I mean, two of my favorite films. What do you think The Godfather is the greatest film ever made, in your opinion? I mean, what would you say your top three are? That's a tough question, I know. I mean, I think Gone with the Wind, because it still holds up, even though it's 1939. I would go with The Godfather as number one, in my opinion. And me, I like Lawrence of Arabia.
I'll ask you differently. If you could see three movies before you died, which three would you see? I don't think The Godfather would be on my list.
Godfather.
Well, you probably saw it 10 times already, right?
Yeah, but I would want to go to my grave happy, not with.
I got Lawrence of Arabia, The Godfather, and shit, just left my mind. I'll come back to it.
So two out of my three are in yours.
Well, let's come back to it afterwards because Derek's got to think about it. I got to think about it. Let's go to Connor Marx. But before we go to Connor Marx, why don't we show a little clip to introduce Connor to maybe some of the people that aren't aware of this brilliant young co-star on New Amsterdam.
Cool, let's do that.
Man, this guy is on it.
Thank you for coming so quickly.
Thank you for granting me surgical privileges. This hallway is a little shorter than I'm used to, so I'm going to talk fast. Your patient's tumor is unresectable because it spread to the hepatic hilum, and it envelops the hepatoduodenal ligament and all surrounding structures. The portal vein is compressed, and the superior mesenteric vein.
Okay, so he's not even a candidate for Whipple surgery, and yet here you are with your entire surgical team. Why?
Multivisceral ex vivo surgery. It's curative, but extremely rare. Takes at least 20 hours, requires subbing in a second team, has a low survival rate, and will cost your hospital around $2 billion. But before you say no, know that it is your patient's only viable option.
Yes.
Yes, you are aware of that.
Yes to the ex vivo.
The medical director at my hospital would never allow that. I can't think of any who would.
Well, you caught me on my day of yes, so we're doing this. So how are you going to resect a tumor this pervasive?
Oh, I'm going to remove all the patient's abdominal organs, carve out the cancer, and shove whatever looks good back in.
Did she really just say that?
Yes, she did.
Oh, perfect.
Hi, Connor. How are you?
Hey, what's up, everybody? You're on? We're on real life television?
We're on real life podcast.
You're with Bob Burgundy.
That's Billy O'Connor,
How are you,
my
Connor?
friend. And
What a pleasure, Billy.
that's my other partner, Derek O'Connor.
Hello.
Derek O'Connor. Hey, Derek O'Connor.
Derek Harris.
It's a day of Connors, you know? We got Connor O'Connor, Billy O'Connor, Derek O'Onnor.
I always knew you had some Irish in you. I always knew it was hidden in you.
Frank O'Connor.
13%, Billy. Actually.
That, my friend, is a great clip.
Thank you, Frank.
On so many different levels. You're talking for Janet Montgomery, who's the actress who you're interpreting. It's all in one take, with the exception of the time you go around a corner. There's no cutaways, there's no pulling up, and you have to interpret for her. You have to do her lines perfectly. You have to interpret perfectly, and you have to hit your marks. Well, I'm
going to even elaborate on what you're talking about. She has to do, the sign language has to be perfect. It has to be on the level. The medical terms are, crazy. And you're interpreting the whole time I'm walking and acting.
Well,
Guys, look, I'll pass you $20 after the show, but this is getting excessive. Really, you're too complimentary. I can't, we can't lead off like this. We're only going to come down afterwards.
well, didn't you prepare by calling your sister?
Yeah, so my little tiny baby sister is no longer a little tiny baby. She's a doctor now. So I called her and I was like, I've got all these things like hepatoduodenal ligament. I'm trying to remember some other, they're like frozen in my brain because I would just be walking around town, like getting a sandwich, like hepatoduodenal ligament, hepatoduodenal ligament, hepatoduodenal ligament. Sandra May Frank, the actress who plays the oncologist that I'm interpreting for, her job, I mean, she's doing the same thing, but with her fingers. She's got to spell all that hepatoduodenal ligament. You know, for a lot of these terms, a lot of these medical terms, there are signs in American Sign Language, but for a lot of them, you just got to spell them. So Frank, you've been very complimentary about this clip in particular for a long time. And I want to jump on the talking me up bandwagon, but I will say, watching it a couple more times, I don't encourage anyone to rewatch this because upon repeat viewings, you'll see that I'm struggling a little bit to like walk in a straight line and not bump into stuff, and I keep having to like sort of look around and make sure that I'm not about to smack into an extra or a piece of the wall.
That's the other challenge of this, is because you have to hit your marks, not to make a pun on your name, but you have to, you have certain marks that you have to hit along the way, or else you're going to knock over the scenery or knock over an extra or knock over the camera. And when you're doing it all in one take, you have to hit your marks as well. You got to do 4 or 5 or 6 things.
Let me ask you both, as a layman, that's about a 1.5-minute scene, 2-minute scene.
Yeah.
How many marks would they have to hit? I mean, would it be 8, 6, 2, 3?
All of them.
Well, how many would that normally be? As a layman, I'm just curious, how many marks would there be? You've got to be aware of, 3, 4, 10.
He's thinking.
I would say in something like that, we probably stop. And maybe there are like 3 or 4 stop on a mark to have part of a conversation points, but then beyond that, there are, we use these terms like banana-ing, which refers to kind of like how you ran around the corner if you're going to do like a really curvy banana or kind of tight. So, as much as I like to kind of condescend to my own profession, at times it is just like stand on a colored piece of tape and say the words that they tell me to say. There are times in which it is a little more mechanically complex, and this is definitely one. If you watch a guy like Ryan, the other doctor in the scene,
Ryan Eagold,
who's just been doing this for years, that guy could have done that blindfolded, walking backwards, and I'm gonna get there.
Well, New Amsterdam is just a wonderful, wonderful show, which I had never seen until you were on it, and now I want to see it every week. And it's in its 5th season on NBC, and this year Connor's going to do all 13 episodes. I think he did 15 episodes out of the 22 last season, and this year you're going to do all 13. So it's a bit of an homecoming, or that's the word. What's the right word? Breakout.
Yeah.
For you, because you're now an overnight success after 12 years.
Marvelous concept, though. The idea of
I don't know if I'm an overnight success yet, but definitely my career up to this point has largely been memorable roles such as like, hey, that guy stole my car. Here's your check, sir. A lot of those really like coming in. The doctor will see you now. I got good at those kind of one-line, 1, 2, 3 liners. But yeah, this is definitely far and away, like to have an opportunity. I actually noticed this the other day. So we just started shooting season 5 a couple days ago. And I'm so used to, for a decade now, working these jobs where I come in the middle of it. This family has been established both on screen and off. Everyone's kind of, if a TV show is ideally a well-oiled machine, all these cogs are in place and everyone knows what they're doing. And I come in very helpless and just in sort of like always asking for an adult to lead me to where I'm supposed to go and tell me what I'm supposed to do next. And it's interesting coming back for season 5. We've got a whole new, a bunch of crew members are new, and I kind of watched the other day as a number of the PAs were sweating a little bit and struggling to figure out where they were supposed to be and what they were supposed to do, sort of that first day stress. And I realized that, oh shit, I'm sort of the senior classman, or like a sophomore or something, that like I have done this before. I'm not the new kid in town, and I do kind of know not only what I'm doing, but how this ship is supposed to sail. And I found myself in a position where I thought, do I have not a responsibility, but do I have the opportunity to kind of offer, non-condescendingly if possible, offer a hand to some of the folks who are coming in new and shepherd them into this experience? And it's definitely never a position I've been in before. So it's pretty swell.
And I'm sure those checks are pretty swell after being few and far between, or fewer and farther between in the past.
Well, Frank, I've found a myriad of ways to cash in on this body in the past decade. So, as an actor, few and far between. Oof, I'll tell you, the world of medicine, they really want a willing subject for a lot of stuff, and so I've been making a pretty penny.
Selling your blood.
Pretty sweet king.
Yeah, more than blood. They'll pay for a lot of different fluids, and I got them. So I've been basically printing money.
Well,
actually, Frank always tells me from the day I got this job, I think Frank's first piece of advice, and sort of like most consistent piece of advice, is like, don't spend your whole paycheck. Which I do appreciate. I think is wise, but
save your money.
Every time we hang out, he's like, "You didn't buy a car, did you?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't buy a car." It's good. But I'm sure that you've seen for 40 years, you've seen actors sort of come from nothing, get their first big paycheck, get the Porsche, and then the series isn't renewed, and they're shit out of luck.
Buy the biggest house possible and sell it after 2 years after the show is canceled.
Yeah.
The concept, the writers that come up with this concept, I think is just brilliant. I mean, it blows me away that an interpreter for a mute doctor who's a genius, and you're an interpreter. After 5 years of doing the show, have you sort of mastered sign language?
He got his break last year.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He joined a new show in the 4th season, and the doctor was added to the character in the 4th season. So now he's doing 2 seasons, 4 and 5.
So you almost have to learn a new language. I mean, each week you're learning more and more sign language. You're getting it. I mean.
That's a great question. I'll make a little clarification for the record and say Sandra, the doctor that I work with, is deaf.
Oh, that was another question.
And I don't know if anyway. Yeah. So I knew. So when they so when I auditioned for this, here's how they pitched it. They were like, "All right, so we want somebody who is like, sort of has a basic familiarity with American Sign Language, ASL, but they're just going to be voicing for the other doctor, that they're actually not going to be doing any sign language. We're going to have the doctor just read lips." I was like, great. Send me my audition, no sign language. It was just, it's like 3 pages or so of a bunch of medical jargon, standard stuff. And then I got maybe like half an hour after I sent it in, I got a text from my manager, and she was like, "Hey, they want you to do a callback. They want you to do a callback right now, like in 15 minutes. But one little thing, now they want you to do sign language for the rest of the scene." And I was just like, oh my God, because it's, I was lucky that I did have somewhere between an acquaintance and a casual fling with American Sign Language from having learned it years ago. But I was not at the level where I could be even vaguely confused with a qualified medical interpreter. So I'll keep the story short, but it was essentially the most heart-pounding 25 minutes of my life, where I told my agents just like, get me as much time as you possibly can. I got about an extra half hour to essentially learn this scene in sign language, because what had happened is that when they auditioned Sandra, the actress who ended up getting cast in the role, she told them, she was like, I can't read lips. No doctor is just going to read lips. Like, there's an interpreter there. The interpreter should be signing. And they were like, oh, okay, that's fair. So to answer your question, yeah, I had a foundation. My sign was pretty good, but not great. And yeah, it's just been a real gauntlet of learning something new every week. They pair me with a director of artistic sign language, and we sit down with every new script and we go through all of it. And she translates all the English lines into sign language lines, teaches them to me, and we practice. And I'm not fluent by any stretch, but my competency is pretty good. I would feel pretty comfortable going into a crowd of deaf folks and being able to communicate, even if I maybe ask them to repeat themselves once in a while.
Well, the great thing for me watching you is that you're a co-star, but you're voicing the words of a star, and your performance has got to be of that of a star in order to pull it off, because all of the medical jargon and everything you're saying, she's got lead dialogue. You've got support actor dialogue normally, but as it turns out, you're almost a star of the show, or a secondary star of the show, as is she, and that's incredible to me.
I am trying to cheat my way to the top, if that's what you're asking.
Yes. That's a good way to put it. You're cheating your way to the top. Because,
we actually. Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Frank,
go ahead.
you
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Frank and I had lunch a couple weeks ago, and you said something very similar, that you've got the dialogue of one of the leads, and I hadn't thought about it like that. And I've actually thought about it several times while rehearsing, preparing for season 5, because I've always struggled a little bit with, television is theatrical. It is full of dramatic devices to make it more interesting and compelling as a watched medium. And so I was trying to find a balance of, like, to what extent do I try to portray or try to mimic an interpreter, in the sense that, do I include the sort of pauses and staggered, what's the word?
Nuances.
Exactly, yeah. Like, it would be realistic and authentic if I am actually, interpreting on the fly. Or do I kind of massage it a little bit, because it is a TV show, and especially a hospital procedural that clicks so fast and we want it to be compelling? Do I kind of give it that oomph? And anyway, so I've taken your wisdom and kind of just sprinkled it on the dome, like a little bit of a cranial paprika up there, to try and inform that question. And there's no real answer. I think the answer is somewhere in between. We do cheat it a little bit, but we all are also trying to hold ourselves to an authentic standard. And yeah, it's an evolving question, and something that it's cool to have things that. It's cool to not know things. It's cool to go on set and have mysteries and curiosities and be able to investigate things as you're working. It keeps it fresh. And yeah.
Were you intimidated at all when you did the first couple of shows working with Ryan Eggold and Janet Montgomery?
Oh my God, I was shitting my pants. Yeah, it was just. By the way, am I trying to keep it PG here? I didn't ask.
No. Please. First of all, you've obviously never seen this podcast, because there is nothing PG about Billy at all.
First Amendment all the way there, brother, all the way, Con.
All right. Well, listen up, you motherfuckers. I'll tell you about how I was feeling day one. Well, yeah, I was, there were so many ways in which this was a first for me. It was my first time. When they booked us, they said, maybe this will be 3 episodes, maybe 4, maybe 5, we don't really know. I think that they were very much testing it out. And I think what they found was that Sandra, the actress who plays Dr. Wilder, is phenomenal. And they realized they had a real treasure on their hands. And so that they did the smart thing and just kept her around for, it's going to come out to be 26 whatever episodes. But anyway, at the time I was, I really, again, the work that I had done was so limited in scope. So I was coming on for my first, what could have been a multi-episode arc, whether it was 3 or 4 or 5 or 20 or whatever. So that made me nervous. But really it was the sign language. The sign language was just like, I was just sweating because this is, the deaf community has been historically marginalized or ridiculed in popular culture and mass media. And so here I was, not an interpreter, an actor, and I didn't want to just flail my hands around in a way that any deaf person watching it or anyone watching it who knows sign would just be like, who is this phony? This is not like this. I didn't want to make a mockery of a language. I wanted to do justice to the language and the culture and the community, and I wanted to be respectful in my work and honor that. And I was just sweating that I was going to, make a fool of make a mockery of the sign language. But it doesn't seem like I've done that. It seems to be I'm getting the thumbs up from people who work on the show who can speak a little, people for whom ASL is their native language. But yeah, I actually did a movie with Ryan in 2013. It's called Lucky Them. He played this heartthrobby young musician who was courting Toni Collette's character. And I played Toni Collette's assistant at her job at the office where she worked. And he was very sweet. The first day I was on set, he was like, I know you. And I said, yes, we worked on Lucky Them. And he's really he's a sweetheart. It was one of those things where I tried to keep it cool, but I was obviously very touched. And I was like, he remembered me. That's so sweet. And they're all, I've done enough work to know how easy it is for ego to infiltrate a set, especially multiple seasons in when the show has established itself and people have established careers based on the work they've done on the show. I know how easy it is for people to get a big head and become prideful and to become self-involved and egotistical about the work or the on-set dynamic. And I'm not just saying this because, we're on a podcast, but truly, everybody on this show, top to bottom, is the just fucking sweetest, kindest, most down-to-earth, warm, welcoming group of folks I've ever worked with. Ryan, Janet, Freema, Tyler, Jocko, they're really like bowled me over how cool they were and how just down to hang they were.
That's great. Is Don Scardino directing this year?
Yeah. So Don Scardino, whose episode I watched recently, whose episode of this show I watched recently, is the producing director. Which, Frank, you can tell us a little more about what that. I don't actually know what that means, but he's my boss, and so I do what he says, and I, try to smile extra big when he's around.
Yeah, producing director is a director who is also a producer, obviously, but that means he'll probably direct out of 13 episodes. He'll direct maybe 2 or 3 episodes, but he'll be there when the writers are not there, and he'll guide the other directors along if they so need it. He's just a safety gap, but he's a terrific director, and that's why the executive producers of New Amsterdam wanted him. And he's a New York native, so that helps.
Sweetheart of a guy. Yeah, we had him on the podcast. Just a great guy. Very real.
Good guy. Very cool dude, and incredibly funny. That guy's got jokes.
Yeah,
he was really good.
He does, and he was a terrific actor. Also, he was in Jesus Christ Superstar on Broadway. He's done a lot of work.
Before you mentioned it almost casually that you wanted to make sure that you acted like a qualified medical interpreter. I didn't even know that was a thing. I mean, I thought that they just wrote this for the part. I mean, it seems like it'd be a narrow career field. You know what I mean? Qualified medical interpreter. You know.
So interpreters can specialize in different areas, and some interpreters, will really. I think different areas require different specializations. So an interpreter who is used to working in a school is probably going to have a tough time working for a doctor all of a sudden. I don't know the rules. I'm sure that there are certifications and legal hoops to jump through there.
Let me just mention, Billy, that deaf people get sick too. And when they go to a hospital, they need interpreters.
Really?
Yeah, deaf people
So
get
they're
sick.
not
They got illnesses too. He's not just interpreting for doctors. He's interpreting
for the patients.
for sure. Probably 90% of the qualified medical interpreters interpret for the patients, not for the.
You see, that's why it's not as narrow a career field as I thought it might be. I was thinking, wow, that's a hell of a thing to go into, and it's like it's worse than journalism.
So, have you found that you're getting auditions for better parts now? And do you find that you're less desperate as an actor going in for auditions?
Oh, well, desperation is something that lives deep down. That's bundled under many it's and so that'll be a treasure that we carry with us for the rest of our lives. No, it's been transformative. I mean, I really it's like a kind of fortune and gratitude for which I struggle to find words, because a lot of the folks that you've had on your show have been literal Hall of Famers, people at the apex of their career or industry, and I'm happily here representing a subset of people who have been working very hard and not seeing that same level of success, and it really I don't take it for granted, and I know that I'm in an industry that is incredibly mercurial and can turn around at any point, and there's never I don't know if this is true, but it feels like there's never, or at least in no immediate sense, some secure floor that I can rest on. It does feel like doors have been opened that were closed to me for years, and it is still my responsibility to work just as hard, if not harder, to make sure that I'm taking advantage of these opportunities. That it's night and day, the kind of stuff I'm going out for before this job and the stuff I'm going out for now after this job. But I know that it can all change in a heartbeat, and I know that the show itself does not guarantee any consistency of these auditions. That really, like, if I don't show up and do the best work I can, they're not going to keep calling me back. So it definitely opens the door, but it also, it's my life, it's my career, it's my job. I got to really keep hustling as much as before. It doesn't give me the luxury of kicking my feet up and cracking a beer at 11 a.m. because I've got it made.
And buying a Porsche and a house in Malibu.
Yeah, Frank, I know. I'm not going to spend my money, man. All right, get off my back. That's money, dude.
It's almost counterintuitive. You would think that now you're going to pay the rent, you don't have to worry about that. But in actuality, it's making you more driven. Like you have to live up to what you last did and be better in your next gig.
Let me ask you, how does it feel to be the because Connor and I have some history. His father and his father's twin were my best friends growing up in Valhalla, New York. Johnny and Jerry Marx. His father was Johnny Marx, who became a preeminent emergency room physician in America. His twin brother, Jerry, is a predominant pediatric cardiologist in Boston. His uncle, Jeff, is a very, very eminent doctor in Oregon. His sister is a doctor in North Carolina. his grandfather, Frank, was the guy who put the first radio tower on the top of Empire State Building. How does it feel to be a slug in your family?
Yeah, but you saw, Frank, how I walked down the hallway and said some words while walking down the hallway. I mean, you said yourself, that's good hallway walking.
That's good hallway walking.
Okay, preeminent pioneer of emergency medicine. Okay, you see me walk down that fucking hallway? A cardiologist at the top of his game.
It was a long fucking hallway.
Yeah, that wasn't a straight hallway either, okay? I turned the corner to the left. Pause. Turn the corner to the right. Boom. Yeah, 4 years of medical school, my ass.
You've been through more than 4 years of medical school. You've been 4 years of Vassar and 10 or 12 years of School of Hard Knocks.
School of Hard Knocks, yeah. You know, I came to visit you, Frank, at your office on Bixel in, I'm going to say maybe 2015 or so. I mean, many times, but there was one time in particular. And you told me something that has really stuck with me for a long time. And I don't believe it's too tangential. It's going to get me back to this question you're asking about being the slug or the black sheep. I've never heard the term slug before in that context. When I say it's good, I don't mean I like it. I mean it's descriptive, you know. But I don't relish in it. Anyway, what you said was that, you know, your father is, and I don't quite know how to use tenses here, you know, when someone's no longer alive, but is or was as proud of you as he can or anyone can be, that pump is full up. So whatever you do in your career, you need to do it for yourself. You can't be working to make him proud of you because he's already proud of you. He's not going to get more or less proud on what you do. So you really have to do it for yourself. And I've thought about it a lot, and it's I don't know if it would I don't know if that's exactly advice. It's counsel, it's wisdom. And it's hard to maintain that engine because certainly in this industry, in this job at least, it can be very your successes or the products of your labor can be intangible. You can work in ways that you don't see what has come of that work in any immediate sense, in a way that you can touch or in a way that you can, you know, cash at the bank. So trying to maintain that engine, trying to keep fuel in that tank and remind myself of that is tricky, and I do struggle with it from time to time. But back to, in my mind, this is connected to this family question, and I'll try to bring it back a little more overtly. It feels good, you know. I know we're kind of shooting the shit, but it feels good because my dad, as Frank knows, he's the sweetest guy. He was really deeply loving, supportive, challenging. He's challenging in a couple ways. He's a challenging dude too, for sure. But meaning that he, you know, challenged me in constructive ways, and he really never let there be any ambiguity as to the fact that he loved me and was proud of me and supported me and thought it was really fucking cool that I was, you know, doing theater and the other stuff that I was doing at 12. And you know, he would always say, he would always be like, I would just vomit if I had to stand on stage and talk to people like that, which is obviously not true. The dude was doing conferences left and right and was, obviously had a lot more, charisma and aptitude than he was letting on. But yeah, you know, I think that I was very lucky to have a father who made it clear that my path was my own, that he was never, ever, ever looking for me to follow in his footsteps, to emulate any part of his career, any of the choices that he made for his life. And I know that's not something that everybody has. I know that a lot of people feel a lot of pressure from their parents to
excel,
sort of orient their compass in certain ways. And yeah, so it you know, certainly there are moments where I look at, again, my little teeny tiny baby sister who is a doctor and think like, damn, I hope she's ready to support me in a couple of years.
Yeah, you say,
but yeah, but also,
you say, damn, I hope she's as happy as I am.
Yeah, well, I hope she's happier than I am. I wouldn't wish my level of happiness on my worst enemy. But oh shoot, I was hoping that would get a laugh. It's a little sadder.
Yeah, it got me questioning. I say, why would he say that?
Why would he say that? Yeah, let's leave the comedy to Billy.
What drove
Okay. Oh, all right.
or my stupidity? Let's leave it to the agent over here, the agent. What drove you to the footlights at 12? You were 12 years old. You were on the stage. What made you want to be an actor? Was it somebody that you saw on stage influenced you? Why that? With all the doctors all around you, why?
That's a great question. I think there was, I'm sure, part of me as a child that was, I think that you can establish an identity in one of a couple ways, and one of them is through sort of tribesmanship and community and wanting to look like and act like and appear like those around you. And another way, and they're not better or worse, just another way to sort of find that identity is through opposition and contrast, and say like, okay, well, you are this, so I'm going to be this. And I think that's probably part of it. Was I don't think that it was adversarial. It wasn't like, screw you, Dad, I'm going to do plays. But it was the kind of put my left foot in front of my right foot in that direction, and it just kept going. I think I did theater in high school because I did a couple plays in middle school, and I did theater in college because I had done theater in high school, and then I, acted when I graduated college because I wasn't prepared or trained to do anything else. And then at one point I woke up in my 30s and was like, well, damn, I can't change careers now. I've made my bed. I just got to sleep in it.
Yep. Since New Amsterdam hit, how many people from your past have reached out to you that you hadn't heard from?
So
look at the gleam onto the gravy train.
I bet that's happened to you.
Look at you.
There is the fantasy of, everyone that I had a crush on in high school being like, I never paid you much attention back when we were 15, but how could I not see it? You're so, handsome and charismatic. Let's be together. Turns out that is just a fantasy and does not or has not happened in real life. I get a lot of people saying, like, hey, my mom and dad watch the show. I think that's our sweet spot. So not a lot of people in my peer group. So yeah, the true answer is like not a ton of folks, but every so often I'll get somebody who'd be like, yeah, I don't know the show, but my mom watches that, I think. I'll be like, yeah, we're getting those moms good. We're getting that viewer base.
And will Nestor Carbonell, my friend Nestor Carbonell, be back this year to direct?
I don't know. He directed one last year, and he was great. He is an actor's director, obviously, because he is an actor. It's very similar to Ryan Eggold, one of those directors who, after every take, will come up to you, and even if it's like a very mechanical, not sort of emotionally charged scene, something that ostensibly doesn't require as much acting muscles, will come up and just be like, yeah, good. All right, here's what I'm thinking. And the directors who are actors first tend to whisper, is what I've noticed. They really like to come up right in your ear. All right, man, all right. Here's what I'm thinking. I want you to think back. 10 years. I want you to think back to the first date you went on with your girlfriend. The first time and it's like the scene is like just I'm making a phone call to say like, hey, I need another bag of O-negative blood up here. Like, I want you to think about the time that your mom didn't hug you. This shit is intense, but I love it. I eat that up.
Well, Nestor's a great actor. We worked together on Sunday Susan for 5 years, 4 years, 88, 93 episodes or something.
Really?
Yeah, we really did. He's
wow.
He's a terrific guy.
He truly impressed the hell out of me. Very, I showed up on a day that I wasn't working. I was coming in to maybe get a COVID test or do a costume fitting. He was busy directing an episode. He just sort of caught me out of the corner of his eye, came over and shook my hand. And I know, I'm very happy to say that I'm not near the top of the totem pole on this show. There's no reason that I would have any expectation of him doing something like that. But I think just that's sort of the kind of guy he is, that he wanted to make sure that I felt welcome, and I think it's a really smart idea as a director, because if you can make someone feel welcome, then you make their ideas feel welcome, and then when they're on set, they're not worried about making a mistake. They're on set and they're willing to experiment and take risks, and I think that you get a lot of good stuff when you are willing to make mistakes and when you are willing to look like an idiot, and you can really only convince someone to be willing to look like an idiot if you establish clearly that you do care about them, that it is a safe space, that nobody's going to yell at them. Anyway, so he was a really
definitely related.
He's very smart.
Definitely related. But looking like an idiot all my life with no hesitation whatsoever. No problem. Doesn't bother me. I got to ask
you. You should. You should have been acting.
Yeah, probably. I got to ask you. This is a first for me. We've done over 200 episodes. Who goes to India? Who goes?
I want to hear about this.
Billy Math.
Billy Math.
We've only done 103 episodes.
200 sounds better.
300 episodes.
I'm Irish.
400.
You embellish. You embroider. You lie, Frank. You lie. Tell me, who goes to India to study drama? I never heard of that one before. And then Kuala Lumpur. Tori, tell me that story. I got to hear about it.
Yeah, well, I guess I do is the answer to that. And if you ask me why, I think that, so I went to India when I was 19, and the way that it came about was my friend Amanda was another student at Vassar with me, and she said, "Hey, I think I'm going to go to India," and I said, "Can I come?" And she was like, "Yeah, come along." And similarly, years later with Malaysia, I had a friend, Jackie, who went to Malaysia on her own initiative and for her own project. And I was like, "Oh, Malaysia. That's cool. Can I come?"
Yeah, let me ask you, would you ask if you could come if they weren't females?
Both of these were non-romantic friends, yes. Pretty definitively non-romantic.
Okay.
Good friends, yeah. I've done some very unintelligent, highly performative things in the name of having a crush on someone. And in fact, very likely could have seen myself moving to a Southeast Asian country, but I just happened to get lucky. And in this case, these were two friends. So really, like my job on New Amsterdam, I'm really making my whole life I've been making a career of riding other people's coattails and just jumping on the bandwagon when other people are.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of people like Stephen Lang, Don Scardino, James Lejour, William Russ, et cetera, and so forth, who rode on people's coattails for a long time until they hit it on their own. So I'm sure when we're doing our 1,000th episode in 40 years, and we have you back as the lead star, you'll be telling us the story of how you said pizza on a show. But so there's nothing wrong with riding on coattails until you get a chance to hit. That's for sure.
Let me do the man. We'll do our 1,000th episode next week.
Let me do the man.
So Connor, who as actors do you? I don't want to say emulate, but who? I'm sorry. He's influence. Who is? Well, I didn't want to say influence. Why don't you? Wait. Let me give you a sign language that you can. A universal sign language.
Why don't you two stop fighting for 1 second, okay? Fighting about the numbers, the math. I don't care how many episodes you've done. I don't care who asked the question.
Okay.
Jeez, reliving my parents' divorce all over again here.
Influence. What actors?
You get the dogs.
What actors?
You guys can never split up. That's impossible.
What actors do you admire?
You'll go down bickering, but you'll go down together.
What actors' work do you admire?
I'm going to answer that question in an off-screen way, and it kind of ties into our Nestor Carbonell conversation. I did an episode of NCIS maybe 5-6 years ago. In its 13th or 14th season, Mark Harmon is the number one on the show. And he, had a long, incredibly storied, incredibly successful career before that show. And anyway, this was very much in my, I don't know, I think my character ended up being named Buddy, but was written just as the Buddy, as the moniker, the role of friend. And they gave him some, I think, silly name. I think they ended up calling me Milo Torbrush, just to sort of make me feel cool. Because that's something that happens at that level when you get a little teeny job and they can't give you any money. My agent will be like, "Can we get him a name at least, so he's not just friend number one?"
Well, let me just break in, because I always say, give an actor a name. You don't want it to be a friend or a pizza delivery guy. Give him a name, because on his resume that'll mean more than a pizza delivery guy or a cab driver. Give him a name, and all of our casting directors always give it. All of our writers always give them actors a name.
Yeah, it feels good.
Yeah,
and I say that I have a role, kid number 2. I actually don't even think I was kid number 2. I think I was kid number 3 on a movie. I've got plenty of those.
But you should change them also in your resume, because whatever you were kid number 3 on, nobody's going to look at that casting to see whether your name was Giacomo or kid number 3. So
Giacomo. What if I changed them all to just Giacomo, different last names, but the first name was always Giacomo?
So Mark Harmon?
For Mark Harmon. So I really just want to stress at this point, he had probably done 250 episodes of NCIS.
500 Billy count.
I'm getting the dogs now. Now I want the dogs.
That's good. I'm mad that I didn't think of that one first. That's very, very clever. So he'd done a million, Billy County had done a million of these, and I was there for, maybe I was going to be on set for one day, and I was there. It was the day of the table read, and I remember it was back when we were actually doing live table reads. Frank, do you still do live? You're doing Zoom table reads, or do people get together in person?
We're doing live on multiple cameras. So
okay.
On multiple cameras, we do live. On the single cameras, we'll probably do Zooms still.
Okay. We've been doing Zoom table reads for a while, but this was back in the day. We were doing live table reads, and he just walked around, the 4 or 5 tables that were lined up together, shook every single person's hand, said, "Hey, I'm Mark Harmon. What's your name? What are you doing here? Glad to have you." And right there, I was like, "Oh man, that's a dope move. I'm gonna remember that." And then later, the table read broke, and I had maybe 5 minutes to get to my fitting, and we're on the Paramount lot.
Sure.
No, I don't know. We're on a labyrinthic studio lot in Los Angeles. Mark Harmon's got maybe 15 minutes to get a bite to eat and then go to the next. He's shooting. He's going to have a 12-hour day, one of 5 that he does this week, that he does every single week. And in looking for my fitting, I open a door and poke my head in, and I see Mark and one of the producers sitting at a table. They're having lunch, and I was just like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and I didn't even say any more than that. Just started to close the door, and he went, "No, come in." And I didn't know. I was like, "Is it a trap? Is it a trick? Do I actually come in? I don't know what to do." And he got up from his table and he walked over and he opened the door again and he said, "Come in." And he said, I remember you from the table read. He said, what are you looking for? I told him I was looking for the costume shop. I was looking for my fitting. And he was like, I'll show you. And I thought maybe he was going to point me in the direction. And already I was feeling very inappropriately placed in the middle of this guy's tiny little lunch break. And he just starts walking through the set. And he leaves his lunch on the table and spends the next maybe like 6 or 7 minutes walking me through all the sets, and he's kind of giving me an informal tour, saying like, this is where we shoot this is a little thing about this. And he walks me in person up to the door of my costume fitting, knocks on the door, hands me off, and the whole time I was just floored. I thought like, what are you doing, man? Somebody at that level, there's truly no reason except for being a genuinely good guy that you would do something like that. And it was a deeply influential moment for me as an actor. And I thought, if I'm ever lucky enough to be in a position like that, I hope that I can remember that and remember how it felt to be treated like that, and that I can kind of make other people feel as included and welcome, and special as they made me feel. It's very easy, especially in Los Angeles. There are so many hundreds of thousands of people who want to be actors. I think, and I can be guilty of this as well, it's easy to condescend, and it's easy to sort of rush them off, and you just feel like you're surrounded by this zombie horde of actors. And so for him to take the time to make me feel seen like that, it was a cool move. It was a really cool move. I'll never forget it.
That's really amazing. Actually, it segues me to a W.C. Fields line. Supposedly, when he started W.C. Fields, he was the kid that pulled the curtain on vaudeville. He pulled the curtains for the other actors. Huh. And he said, and I vowed right then and there, if I ever made it big, I'd never forget that kid that pulled the curtains. Because now I'm a star. Did I forget that kid? He goes, no, I think about him every day, and I say, fuck him. Which is W.C. Fields. But
that doesn't surprise me about Mark Harmon, because if you know Mark, he's married to Pam Dauber, who starred in Mork and Mindy, opposite my great friend, now gone, now departed, Jay Thomas. And you have to be a wonderful person to be married to Pam for so long, because she's just the sweetest soul, and she wouldn't marry a slug. Wait
a minute. Remember, seriously, I'm here 10 minutes ago. I was the slug here.
Yeah, well, she wouldn't marry anybody less than Mark Harmon. That's a really great person.
Tell me, I'm going to just change the subject completely. Tell me about the jambalaya and why jambalaya in New Orleans. Would you have I heard you make a mean jambalaya. Is that on the
Where are you getting your information on here, Billy? You got people that you sent down to track me down? What is it? You know a little too much, my friend.
And Dewey sausage, shrimp, chicken, okra. What do you put in your jambalaya? Come on, I got to know.
What's my social security number? Let me see how far this rabbit hole goes. Give me what are my top 3 fears?
If you're going to do social security number, I'll give you like 20 numbers instead of 10, because I like to spread it around. I'll give you a lot. So come on, tell me you make jambalaya. I heard that's the word.
I graduated college, and like I said, all I've been doing was acting. All I've been doing was theater, and I think this is a tell the truth kind of podcast, right? We're bearing our souls here. Is that correct?
Yep.
Good. I think that the reality is that I was kind of afraid of making a go for it. I think that there was something about saying, hey, I want to be an actor, I'm going to try to do that scared the hell out of me. Because once you say, this is what I'm trying to do, then suddenly you open yourself up to the possibility of failure. So when I graduated, I was like, I don't know if maybe I'll be an actor, maybe not, who cares? So that if it didn't work out, I could, lean on the fact that I had not openly confessed to wanting to do that. I don't recommend that strategy to anyone. It's, I don't judge younger me for doing it. I understand why I did, but it was an act of fear. And anyway, so I spent that first year after college doing a bunch of stuff. And what I told myself at the time was that I was given myself the opportunity to, just be an adult. I had been in school my whole life. I had been in rehearsals my whole life. I had never really tried anything else. So I started sort of going down the be a chef route. And there was a little while there where I thought that that's what I was going to do. And I worked a bunch of kitchens in Seattle, worked a bunch of kitchens in New Orleans. But ultimately it took about a year. And then I was like, nah, who am I kidding? I'm trying to tell stories. And then jump back into it. And it was, I loved the opportunity of getting to work in kitchens. It's probably the closest to the military that I'll ever come in my life. And I learned a bunch, and, because we had to eat 3 times a day, the skills that I learned have continued to prove quite valuable. But yeah, to be honest, like, as hard as acting is, I don't know that I could hack the kitchen scene. It wrecked my body, and that's hard work.
What kitchens did you work in New Orleans? I'll ask you for Billy.
Yeah, please.
What's the question?
What kitchens did you work in New Orleans?
I worked at it's called Canseco's Market on Esplanade. It was like a little sort of corner store that had a kitchen in the back. And here, this is a very, I feel like, how Frank Pace would encourage me to sort of talk up my resume. For a long time, I listed myself as the sous chef there, which was technically true because I was reporting directly to the chef, Patrick. What I omitted was the fact that it was only the 2 of us working there. So it's playing a little loosey-goosey with the term sous chef. But yeah, worked there for, I don't know, we were in New Orleans for maybe 4 or 5 months. A group of us went down there and started a theater company, which is ended sort of right in the pandemic, but had a good 13-year run. It's called New Noise Performance. And then to make a little money and to keep going on the side, I worked at Canseco's Market on Esplanade. I had not thought about that in a very long time.
Well, leave it to us to bring out something you haven't thought about.
Yeah, what else do you guys know? Who have you been talking to?
Well, let's throw it to Derek. See if he's got a closing question for you.
Yeah, I want to go deep. I got a question about. So you tried for a long time to be successful as an actor. And I think the time frame was around 12 years. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I graduated. A decade more or less.
Okay. What was the hardest time? Like, what was that moment where, that moment where you're sort of thinking, I can't do this. Like, I had a rough audition today, or haven't had any auditions. What was your most difficult time?
That's a great question. I don't know that there is a sort of, you hear a lot of celebrities on talk shows talk about how they called their agent and said, that's it, I quit. And the agent says, 1 more audition. And then they go do the audition that, is Jim in The Office for John Krasinski, or is, some other Emmy-winning, career-breaking show. I don't know how much. I think those stories are probably a little tweaked by the PR machine.
Yeah.
But who knows? But I've never had anything like that. But I certainly, the reality is that there is part of the job is doubt management, at least for myself. I think that there are some actors out there who have a kind of bulletproof belief in themselves and conviction that is not tested. And I think that's admirable and laudable and good for them. But that's not been my experience. That I think that, you try to believe in yourself and you try to maintain that flame. But rejections are cumulatively a data point, and at a certain time, you start to look at them. And I think for me, it was in probably around 2018, I started to just get a little bit older. I started to get into my late 20s, and I was able to more easily visualize a concrete future or a forking set of possible futures. And, I had up to that point really been fine struggling as an actor because I didn't have a, mortgage, didn't have a kid to support, all that stuff. And I just started to extrapolate this lifestyle and say, okay, well, we're not seeing a lot of movement. We're not seeing a kind of linear progression the way that you do if you work in a lot of other jobs where you get promoted on a kind of schedule and you can sort of imagine what your life is going to look like next year and 5 years later. That this is an industry where you can go from 0 to 100 with one job, or you can, it's unpredictable. And I was just starting to look at, whether or not I loved it, whether or not whatever degree of success I was having, is this the position I wanted to be in 5 years later, 10 years later? And I think that that's a question that's always going to be with me, because I do think about the future, and I do think about a kind of life that I want. And there are many ways in which the irregularity of acting does not allow you to place bets on that picture. You do have to be comfortable with instability, and you have to be comfortable with not knowing. And that was the time where I was thinking, like, shit, I kind of a come to Jesus moment where I was saying, like, we're not done. We're not, if I was running this business in any other field, I would say, like, hey, we've got to look at the numbers here. We've got to look at the data. We're not turning the kind of profit that makes a sustainable enterprise. Something needs to change. But there was something that Frank said to me, has been saying to me for years, which is, we talk about this idea of luck, and somebody, we say, oh, he or she is so lucky, they got this job or that job. And the reality is that, you hear no 1,000 times, 10,000 times, and then you hear yes. That's luck. That it's really a game of survival. It's sticking it out. It's one of the first things that Frank told me when I moved to Los Angeles, actually, when I kind of first hung out with him. He was like, it's just about outliving your competition.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because when you said doubt management, I wrote down something that I said the first time I met you, which you don't remember, but the first time I met you was in 1988 at the 20th anniversary of Valhalla High School graduation. I was the commencement speaker, and I brought a couple of people back, one of whom was your dad, because your dad had been the valedictorian of my senior class, and I brought, I was going to mention him in the speech, and in that speech I said, relative to doubt management, I said, and luck, if after 50 times somebody says, after 50 no's you quit, that's bad luck. After 5,000 times somebody finally says yes, that's good luck. And I've always, that's really prevalent in the business, because especially as an actor, your life is built upon rejection. You have to go through hundreds of no's just to get a yes. And you have to persevere until you get a yes to be lucky. And that's all I got to say about that.
That's pretty cool. I'm funny, when he said doubt management, I wrote it down too and circled it, because I've never heard that term before. But yeah, even as a comic, you're insecure. Do I have the nuts? Do I have the chops? Am I going to make it? When am I going to make it? And, like you said, doubt management. You got to be able to overcome that.
The last question for Connor, Billy?
When you put your jambalaya?
I'll say this. I'll say duck fat is a nectar from the gods, and you can never go wrong.
That's cool. That's good. I'll take that away.
So anybody who wants Connor Marx jambalaya recipe, write to amikamook@mike.com, and we'll send it in the mail.
I'm joking.
$15 certified check.
I'm jonesing for it right now.
Yeah.
I can think some jambalaya right now.
Well, my closing words to Connor will be: look around. You just take it all in, enjoy it while you're working, because you're going to work for a long time, and explore the possibilities of directing, because you may be a terrific director. Observe the cameras; they're not just there for decoration; they're doing a job. And if you notice the Don Scardinos and the Nestor Carbonells, and the Ken Olins of the world and the Peter Hortons, who are all actors who made the move into directing, and that's the greatest way to extend your career. So when you're directing in the future, acting in the future, I hope to be watching you for 20 to 30 more years.
Couldn't have written it any better, brother. Very nice.
That's very touching.
Thank you, my friend. Thanks for being a part of this. It's been a
Guys,
great...
I feel like I just hogged all the airtime. I mean, I realize that this is an interview-based format, but I was a pork. I barely asked a single thing of you two. Billy, how are you? This is the
I'm
first
good,
time
brother.
we've
You're
met.
terrific. Don't even worry about me.
Hello, goodbye at the same time.
Well, to quote William Russ, Rusty Russ, who was just on, maybe a week or so ago, he said, "I had so much fun doing the podcast. There's nothing more than an actor likes than an hour talking about himself."
Yeah, I mean, I had a blast. I just feel self-conscious, I want it to be fun for all three of us.
It was fun.
It'll be fun for our millions of viewers as well.
Millions.
Thanks, Connor.
Thanks, everybody.
Be
Pleasure.
well.
Thank you, Connor.
So that was a nice approach to take.
The doubt management thing, even 300 episodes, we've never had a guy say doubt management.
A guy on his way up.
That's good.
Yeah.
At the cusp of stardom. At the cusp of stardom.
Obviously, he's got the chops.
He's got the chops, and he's got...
Yeah, and you brought in another quote. What was it? Zombie horde of actors in LA. I thought that was great.
Very interesting guy. Very guy. I hope he soars.
Yeah, and he spent a lot of time talking about a lot of stuff that I haven't thought about in a lot of years, because, like I said, we talked to the Stephen Langs, we talked to the Don Scardinos, we talked to the Bill Russ, we talked to the Faith Fords and the Grant Shaws and the Joe Regalbutos, but it was interesting to talk to a guy at the end of his struggle period of time.
Yeah.
You know what I thought was great is the fact that he mentioned, I like to give you a hard time about your
We know it's based in love.
Yes. Well, but he has some immense appreciation and love for you. Like you really helped him out in his career. Like there were 2 or 3 moments in the interview where he mentioned that advice that you gave him really helped him transition mentally into some success at that particular juncture of his life. So that's good. I'm proud of you.
Well, thank you.
Frank always gives good advice.
Let's mark the date down.
Frank always gives good advice. He told me, who gives a shit about a football game that was played in 1969?
A compliment from Derek. After all of the years of abuse I'm taking from Derek, a compliment. But, that gets us back to, we may be seeing Connor in a movie that will break into Derek's top 3. But for now,
He had too much to confess. The weight was too much.
For now, let's get back to Derek's top 3 movies.
Oh, top 3 movies are, what did I say? Oh, so Amadeus. So that's number 3. Number 1 is The Godfather. Number 2 is Lawrence of Arabia.
Okay, year 3?
I'd say Lawrence of Arabia, The Godfather, and Gone with the Wind, because I think it still holds up.
Yeah, I bet you like Gone with the Wind. I bet you really like that.
They punished the donkeys. They really punished them.
Well, my 3, I phrased the question a little bit differently. The 3 before I died that I would want to see, because I would want to leave on an up note, would be Shawshank Redemption, because everybody's happy at the end. Casablanca, because everybody's happy at the end, and Yankee Doodle Dandy.
I'm sorry.
I love that the way that ends. of George M. Cohen tap dancing down the depths of the White House and going out and singing along with the troops over there.
What's the matter, old timer? You don't remember the lyrics to this one? Seems to me I do.
Seems to me I do. And you know who said was the old? You know, asked the question.
No.
Frank Phelan, who went on to become Dobie Gillis's father in The Many Adventures of Dobie Gillis. And there you have it, my
That's
friend.
very
There
good
you
trivia
have
that
it.
you
And I think he was also in Babe Ruth, the movie, with William Bendix, the bad movie.
That was a terrible movie.
Not the good movie with Stephen Lang, that was produced by a friend of mine, and directed by Mark Tinker. Anyway, with that,
another one on the shelf.
Another one on the shelf, but another one of our top shows. Remember, I'm honest. Every show is not a winner, but this one was a winner for sure. So I hope everybody enjoyed it.
Thanks so much for looking in, as always.
And again, congratulations again on being named to the 40 top podcasters in America by Podcast Magazine.
Podcast Magazine.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care. Thank you very much. Yeah, he was good.
In our salute to 9/11 first responders, we talk with FDNY Deputy Chief Richard Allies and Attorney Michael Barish.
We'll see you next week.